Good afternoon all, my name is Wendell Daniel and welcome to StreetMic. And today we are coming to you live and direct from Tottenham, outside of Tottenham Police Station, which is a very famous location. And in front of me I've got a very special guest and I'm going to ask him to introduce himself. What's your name, sir?
My name is Ken Hinds and I'm a community consultant here in Haringey.
So Ken, tell me what links you have with Tottenham, and then eventually I'm going to ask you 10 years ago, after Mark Duggan police on the 4th of August 2011. So tell me more about the links you have with this great borough.
Well, I've grown up here in Tottenham. You know, I've got an association that stretches far over 50 years. And further down the road, a place called Edmonton, my work and my heart and my movement all remains here. On the night that we're in question, I was also pivotal to what was going on in regard of trying back then, and my motto still today.
But before we go into what happens on the fateful day back in, more about Ken, your links and all with the Stop and Search monitoring group here in Tottenham.
Yes, well, growing up here, I was part of a carnival band called Rough Diamond that used to, for 20 years, we had the biggest children band at the Tottenham Hale Carnival. What that created was a community hub. That community hub was a strong, family base. Even now, the children that now have their own children says, you know what, they're still friends with the people that they met around at that time. An offshoot of that, I became what we call a conflict engagement specialist. That means dealing with the serious violence that they had back in the days. Where Operation Trident had got people like me involved to step in to go and talk to the man them that perpetrators. And so that evolved from there. I also became a specialist of stop and search after being a victim in 2004 while watching a young man being stopped and searched here in Haringey, got caught up and got arrested, got with assault on the police. That was and I managed to win my case and got compensation from that. From there, what I did, we set up a group called Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group. I was a chair. What that was to actually hold the police to account around stop and search matters, and also inform our community about their rights and responsibility around stop and search. That simply meant that no longer that should we have a victim mentality. A victim mentality is simply this: that if you get caught up in a dodgy stop and search where they use unnecessary force on you, it emotionally scarred you, and we call it being stopped and scarred. What my function was simply this: as I got stopped back in the days under the sus law, that's how far we're going back, and search repeatedly could take it. But that's what you're playing right into the hands of the British criminal injustice system, right? That will just, cart you up in their net and then, give you more time in jail, right? And cause more problems here in the black community. So from there, I became a specialist. I've sat on different boards. I sat on the board called the Use of Force. I sat on as the chair of the Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group. We have regular meetings with the borough commander. I sit centrally with Scotland Yard. But all the time is, people have to understand that some of us have to stand up and face the wicked people in, right? That's in the policing. You may have, I'm not saying all of them are bad, but I'm saying that all it takes is a few bad apples to then corrupt the borough. And the latest kind of report back from the police said that they are institutionalized corrupt. We know that they institutionalized racism in there. So now for them to have this, what we got to do about that is the same. We know where we stand. So don't think at the end of the day that they're going to police us as if on a fair and equitable base. What we see here in Haringey, this is a poor part of the borough, where 90% of their stop and search take place. So what we have here is what we call a police force. But you go up to Muswell Hill and Haringey and those places there, you get a police service. Do you understand? It's a totally different things altogether. And they're wondering why that the man them like me walk around with our screw face. You understand? Because we're unhappy of suffering from the same thing over and over. And you know what I say to that? I fed about the same thing over and over. That's a lyric that I now come with.
Yeah. I hear you, sir. So from what you're saying, you've got a lot of links with Tottenham. You've got a lot of links with the police service, the police force here in Tottenham. But let's talk specifically about the 4th of August 2011 when Mark Duggan was shot in Ferry Lane. Can you please tell StreetMic what is your understanding of what happened in Ferry Lane? And as you know, that led to the riots, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But on the 4th of August in Ferry Lane, what is your understanding of what occurred?
Well, I heard a break. I remember it's a Thursday evening, when I heard breaking news about a man being shot dead after a shootout on Ferry Lane with the police. A shootout, you know. So we thought, what's going on? That sounded brazen. But you know, man, if a man's going to go and take on armed response unit, then you know what? Boy, you live by the gun, you die by the gun. But you know what? Then it didn't start making sense. You know, you start questioning, well, why would a man, knowing at the end of the day he's got armed response people, armed police around him, but won't take that on? And then when you find out who the person was, Mark Duggan, it's a rare. Then words start getting about saying that it was an execution. Things never happened. Mark was a family man that would never take that on board. And then, you know, the community intelligence was saying that things didn't go the way what the police were saying. Quite quickly, the IPCC at the time...
What's the IPPC?
Independent Police Complaints Commission, right? They now call it IOPC. But back in the days, they were on the scene fairly quickly, but a number of things that was dodgy. They moved the actual taxi that Mark was travelling in. You know, they said it was a shootout, but then there was no gun found on the victim, on Mark, right? And they couldn't find the gun, but the gun was found some distance away from him. And I know that, you know, for a person who got shot, that gun would have been around them. To find it some 15 or 20 yards away from him, and nobody can explain how it got there, don't ring true to me. You know, when you have about 15 to 25 officers that was around, one of them should have seen something happen.
If I can come in there, I like to do things logically, yeah? So you're now talking about gun being thrown, 15 officers, a gun being found a distance from the body, from where Mark was shot. But at the time, people wouldn't have known that. But the point I want to make, when you found out that Mark had been shot, from your point of view, what was the feeling here in Tottenham at that time?
Well, again, one of sadness, one of anger, in fact, leading to rage. That was the kind of feeling we're holding, because again, it was a series of things that's been going on, because the police were again on their stop and search. What
I'm going to ask you to do, because I've got a bit of shadow on your face. If we move around into the light, if you move around, come into the light now. Then we can talk a bit better. I apologise for that. There was a bit shadows, so carry on talking. So tell me more.
So as I said, the way the police were conducting their stop and search in an aggressive nature, it meant that, you know, we were, and they had something called the Section 60, that's a no suspicion stop and search. It meaning that anybody in a particular area could be stopped and searched. And the way that they were overusing that and using it as an excuse to further kind of intimidate the black community, you know, and the regular, routinely, what they did, like when they come across a stop and search, was to run up on people, throw them to the ground, put them in handcuffs.
I hear that bit, but like I said, I want to go logically. Go back to the day and the community feeling and what you heard and etc. I want to build a story, a picture for all of those who are watching. So when you discovered that Mark had been shot, you know, what did you do? Who rung you, etc.?
Well, I got a call from a family member, and the family member was saying to me that they were going to organise, because it had an annual event, a birthday party that often took place every year for the man them around Broadwater Farm. So what the family member said to me was they were going to move that event to Mark Duggan's, Bruno's house, which was Mark Duggan's father's home, right? And that was going to happen. That was going to happen on the Friday. That was going to happen the Friday. But he said that what he was concerned about is that they were going to have their music equipment, and they were concerned that, you know, they're going to have people around, and they didn't want to have strong-arm police tactics coming in and disrupting the thing, right? Because that could have led to a real eruption, eruption of emotion.
So at that time, there was a possibility for an eruption of emotion because someone had been shot and they were killed and people were feeling angry.
Absolutely. And what they wanted, my function was, because I had connection within the police, so they said, it was to actually reach out to the senior police and to say to them that, look, this is what we got going on, and what we don't want is the police running in into the man's home, right? And I was able to report back that the police have agreed to have a low-level police presence around the event, and I went along, and I remember that Bruno was sitting around the table, and everybody that was coming there, Bruno saying that they murdered my son.
Was that on the same day that Mark was shot, on the 4th, or afterwards?
That was the Friday.
So that was on the 5th?
Yeah, the 5th. That was on the 5th. So about 400 people attended that event. You know what I mean? And man, them from all different ends linked up, forgot their differences, but came in solidarity and came to give their condolences.
But what did you mean from man from different ends? For those watching, what do you mean by that?
You know, like you have the postcode nonsense going on. So man from Tottenham, man from Hackney, man from Brixton, you know, man then that may have a dispute going on, all came together. Yeah. You know, even though, you know, on another day that would have been a problem. Yeah. But on this day, they all came in harmony. Yeah. And that was a positive aspect of that situation. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, that happened. That I was invited to come back to give a report back to the goal meeting along with some other community leaders at the police station, and we quite clearly said to them that what was very troubling, that from my discovery, is that no official word had got back to the parents that Mark had been killed from, right, but yet the media knew a lot more than what the family did, and that was very disrespectful. And we inferred at that meeting that if that situation isn't corrected, that you could have a serious uprising like the one they had back in 1985.
And the event took place in Ferry Lane on the 5th. You had the meeting, community leaders came together, men from all different postcodes came down to the area and you fed back information there was a possibility of an insurrection here in Tottenham, yes or no?
Yes, that was given on the 6th of August, just behind us at the police station that we see here. We had a meeting in there, and where they had the IOPC, you had the senior police officers, and you had David Lammy and other council officials in that briefing. But like everything else, it's like what seemed to happen. Police were saying it's down to the IOPC, IPCC, and the IPCC was down to the police. You know, it's that.
So they were all blaming each other. They weren't taking responsibility.
None of them were taking responsibility. So, and in the meantime, there was a planned event where they were going to the family, and the mothers and the women with their children were planning to have a demonstration leading from the farm to come to Tottenham police station here outside.
And for those of you watching, when Ken says the farm, that is Broadwater Farm. Broadwater Farm is well known because there was an incident there previously where I believe PC Blakelock lost his life many years ago. Is that true?
Well,
no, I'm just generalising. I'm saying blaming.
No, well, Cynthia Jarrett lost her life, and as a consequence of a riot where PC Blakelock. So what happened is, so they made their placards, and they marched from Broadwater Farm down here, and I decided that I was at home, and I got a call from the senior police to say to me that could I come down to help with their plans. What plans? You understand, about their policing, about this demonstration. So I said to him, why don't you call on the other community leaders that's in the ends? He said, well, I have done. But all of them say that they are with the protesters and not coming down. So, but anyway, as a man who wants to keep the peace, I decided that I would come down to see what I can do. I came down, I did some recording, seeing how peaceful it was. I told them that they were making history, but I didn't know how it would pan out. But I was saying that ahead of the curve, and there were young people just around. Yes, you had a few of the young men sitting on the railings by the sweet shop in the corner, right beside the police station, but everything was peaceful. And as the time went on, things moved on. What we realised is that the police had put down the shutters, right? Like there weren't no communication. So I came out here and I said to them, how come the shutters are down? And he says to me, well, Ken, we just really trying to safeguard ourselves. I said, look, I will go and look for the family and see if I get a representative to come and talk to you. He said, would you do? I said, yeah, I'll do that, right? Because I noticed that I felt the tension. Because it's no point having a standoff where the police are hiding inside the police station. So
at that time, you were here making the peace, and was Mark's family also here, down here, at that time?
Yes, they were here. They were here. They were outside. They had a megaphone, and they were, putting across their points.
And at that time, this is now on the 6th, at that time, were they aware of what did or did not happen in Ferry Lane?
Yes, they were aware. They were aware on the 4th because Mark had put a call out to saying that he was being jacked up by Trident. Right, so in other words, a hard stop was about to. So he was on the phone to someone. So of course, and then when they heard that someone was murdered, then they knew, and they went down. The police said no, they stopped them from actually his girlfriend Simone from actually going and getting inside the cordon, into the cordon, right? So, but they knew. They had a good, but it wasn't official. It's a disrespect because we know quite clearly that when people die in a war zone, they said that they can't release the name until the next of kin has been informed. But in this case, it was different. They released his name, and also they released that he was a gangster. All right, but gangster for what? He's a family man of six children. Do you understand? So it didn't really equate. But then again, that they've got a history of doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I hear that bit, but let's pull you back to the Saturday. And on the Saturday, you're calming people down. You said the police said they'll put down the shutters,
They put down the shutters.
Because they felt something was not quite right. What then led to what we all know about in the riots? What happened?
Simply, the senior police, I managed to talk to the family member, and I managed to persuade him to have a conversation with the senior police officer on duty at the time. But I said to the senior police officer, he needs to come down and have that conversation and invite them into the police station. He said that he's gonna clear the borough commander desk. He's gonna come down. He will invite them in, and he came down just on the railing, but this side of the police station. He came down. I introduced both of them together, but to my surprise, he didn't handle that situation very well. Right, that was the mistake. The mistake was to try to have a conversation with a hostile crowd surrounding the family that was grieving, and being kind of, didn't ask to be put in that situation. So instead of him taking them in, inviting them in, people started shouting that he's not senior enough, right? So he said, okay then, I will go and talk to my supervisor. Within half an hour of him saying that, things kicked off. How it kicked off is that simply there was an incident where one of Mark Duggan's younger family member, a female, in her frustration, was actually just kind of beaten on the police chest, right? And it's the way the police reacted, the aggression they used, the force that they used, kind of wild the crowd up. Said, look at her doing that girl, and that went viral.
And let's clarify the meaning of beating on the chest. I'm assuming that's in grief and anger. No, just clarify it. Not anything untoward.
No, that's it, in grief and anger. You know what I mean? It's just like in frustration. Yeah. So it wasn't anything that was untoward, that threatening, or in that regard. But anyways, so when that took place, then the next thing happened is that we saw a police car being rolled down towards the Turkish shop down there, and I don't want this car here, and they push it back into the middle. Then somebody in the crowd run in with a firebomb and just fling it in.
I was dumbfounded. I wasn't here. I can only go by the perceptions on what I saw in the media, and we know it's subject. People choose what to put out. But you were here. Please describe. This is your community. You've witnessed certain things happen, and the situation is volatile. Someone has been shot dead. The family's not getting answers. The community is angry. You're not getting the dialogue and the communications from the police. As a local representative who's well known, how you personally, take me through your feelings and how you felt and what you were seeing unfold in front of you.
What I saw unfold in front of me was the manifestation of the anger and the rage that black men were holding in for a long time express itself in an explosion of aggression. It weren't no looting at that time. It was man them step into the police, man them prepared to rip off their shirt, and you have a line of 20, 30 police, and they were there just to really say to the police, enough is enough, right? We not take no more, right? Me, I stand for this. And I saw, such act of it was aggression. It was a release of the tension that was being held.
Can I ask you a quick question? I don't want to put you off, yeah? As I'm listening and watching, I'm seeing your body language as you express yourself and as you're holding your Are you reliving that day second by second?
That's it. I'm back in that space at that time, and I can see, you know, I'm sorry if it's going to be looking intimidating, but this is how I saw it expressed out there, and how I felt. I felt no different to the man who was confronting the police, and I felt at the end of the day that was the right thing to do, was confront the police. But I was there with the police, not with the community and its structure. So, you know, so again, when I've seen a man going toe to toe, I know back in the days, that's the kind of thing I did with the riots and the Tottenham Hale Carnival, down at Brixton, down here at the farm. That's the kind of thing. But the role I was playing on this occasion was being that of the peacemaker.
Yeah. As the peacemaker, I fully understand your role and what you were trying to do, but as the peacemaker, it didn't work because the community, or members of the community, or even, I don't even know if they were members of the community, but people here acted in a way that resulted in looting and innocent businesses being razed to the ground, just like we had a well-known shop at the top of Lansdowne Road. So how did you feel when you saw the looting and the crime that was taking place?
Look, I felt saddened. In fact, there's a group of us that we stood in the shop front of a number of shops. So there were Indian shop and other Turkish shop. We stood in front and stopped anyone from coming in to violate their shop. But we got to remember the actual condition that had created. What had conditioned was simply this. There was no leadership in town. Boris Johnson was out, or whoever.
And just clarify, at the time, Boris Johnson wasn't the Prime Minister, he was the Mayor of London.
And David Cameron was the Prime Minister, but they were both out, right? You had the borough commander who was on a plane to America, right? You had people, you had the police that was at loggerhead with the Home Office because of there were certain cuts were coming in, and they were up in arms about the cuts that was being talked about, right? So that means that there was hostility between, even the infighting between the police and the people who are supposed to be there to oversee the policing, right? So what I felt, I also still hold it today, that insurgency also came in to take full advantage of what was going on.
What do you mean by insurgency for those watching?
The people who wanted to
talk your talk.
Inflame. Yeah, yes, that's right. Inflame the situation, take advantage, and then because they can always hide under the black cloud to say, look, the black community that's doing this, and so we don't know how to set these fire. The one that you mentioned about the carpet land. That can be done only by professionals, right? That's my take on this, right? There's certain things that happen here that I don't see the black youngsters or that was here. I saw people from different nationalities, and the first time, I've never seen it before, was the Jewish community with them lux coming out here, right? In support. You know, I've never seen that, but I recognize that on the day, okay? But I'm saying to you, at the end of the day, it wasn't just a black thing. It was a community uprising.
And the community, we got members from all races, all nationalities. I agree with you, it wasn't a black thing. Everyone was out here doing a thing.
Yeah, but yet they made it seem it was like a black thing, right? And it just wasn't. Even though it affected us disproportionately more than any other community, and we reacted in a manner that was confronting the police, others came along and has helped themselves to getting into shops and things of that nature.
How did Mark's family react knowing that their son, their loved one, people people had come down here to Tottenham in front of the police station to protest, to raise their grievances with the police, and then something else occurred, which was technically forgetting about Mark, and it was now something completely different. Riots, stealing, arson. How did the family feel knowing all of this?
The family said that they wanted the peace. They were always out here advocating for non-violence, right? Because they didn't want this to be linked to Mark, as it has been, and it shouldn't be. It was a separate thing. They've got to understand. It's got to understand that the people in Nottingham, the people around the country, didn't know Mark, but they knew about stop and search and about the violation around that, and that was a key element in what escalated things.
So that was the catalyst, and many people around the country, from what you're saying, were feeling very similar as all of the different nations here in Tottenham, and many elements did the same thing in different cities around this great country.
Yeah, they expressed themselves in a similar vein. You know, as I said, personally, as I said, I felt shocked, I felt hurt, I felt let down by the people who did the looting, because that would become the story rather than the actual what the injustice that took place and continued to take place. And look what they used. They used all the looting to then jail people who played a very little role. Pick up a bottle of water, getting 6 months. Put a pack of Rizla and being black and getting 2 years.
Can I ask you a silly question? When I watch what unfolded on TV, at the time I wasn't live streaming, so I wasn't here, but I did come down as a photographer. Do you believe that people were led into a false sense of security about looting because the police were doing nothing? Because the reason I said that, I saw all the photographers, I see all the CCTV, and I know evidence was being gathered through those means to do something at a later date. So do you believe that people, in seeing not much happening with the police, they believe they can go and do anything?
Yeah, the police withdrew. There was no police presence. You know, they call it 4 days in August, where the police lost the streets. And that was a time when I see all the mandem from the different ends all come together. In those 4 days, there was not one postcode murder or attack on mandem. All the mandem came together, right? And in a way that I would really like to see them come together again. Yeah, I think it's so important, young men, for you to know that you've done it once, you can do it again, right? You've got to stop turning the knives on each other, on people who look like you, because we ain't the problem. The system is the problem, right? The systemic racism is the problem. The institutionalized corruption in the police is the problem. The corruption with the politician is the problem. But our youths are not the problem. So don't look upon that. Put down your knife, put down your gun, come out in peace and harmony, and let's make a difference for the future.
I hear that, and I love what you got to say there, and we can pick up on that. But going back specifically with Mark, we know the riots took place, we know what happened, but let's now analyse the aftermath and what occurred. We've discussed the fact that after things had died down, there were many arrests, people were prosecuted, people were put inside. But what has happened specifically in this great borough since those horrible days, after the killing and after the riots? How has this borough recovered?
Look, initially, they brought in a black borough commander, right? And for me, he had a different style of policing, right?
Was it good?
It was positive.
Did you work in partnership with him?
I did.
Or her?
It was him, Victor Lissa. I did work in partnership with him at the end of the day, and his team. And we felt that they reduced the disproportionality level that was at the current time running like something like 9-1, and they brought it down to 2-1. So that meant that they had more equitable policing that were being conducted. But then when he left, it's gone back up to 8-9-1. That's where we are today. So, but what I felt that was different is that for the first time, one of the positive things we did there, we agreed on a Know Your Right Stop and Search card produced by us, Haringey Independent Stop and Search Monitoring Group, but where the police signed up and where the council signed up to saying this is the way that they will conduct themselves on a stop and search. Because for far too long, there'd been no accountability around stop and search, right? And so people saying, oh, well, I don't have to give my name and address. But then people saying, well, if you don't do that, you're going to get arrested. But we had a form that said that you didn't have to, and you won't. That's not a basis for you to be arrested. We had a basis to show that the smell of cannabis alone is not sufficient ground to stop and search you, right? But yet, look where we're back. 7% of their stop and search is around the misuse of drugs now, and 90% of those stop and search is under the roundabout smell of cannabis or roundabout cannabis for personal use. So that is an abuse of a scarce resource and the way a misuse of the police time and the community coming to strengthen and coming stronger.
Let's talk more about the role of the local elected officials, and let's be specific with the local MP here, David Lammy. I heard David Lammy on LBC this morning with Tom Swarbrick, and they spoke about what happened here 10 years ago. And as you know, David Lammy is a very busy person. He's always on LBC on a Saturday. He was on Sunday, but he's a presenter on a Saturday. What involvement did David Lammy have in all of this stuff since Mark Duggan's death and the rebuilding of the community here in Tottenham?
Look, I'm not here to talk about, to really...
I've got to ask the question.
Yeah, but that's fine. But to talk down about anything. But what I can say, David Lammy plays it safe. David Lammy is a seasoned career politician.
What do you mean by David Lammy plays it safe? He's been an elected politician. He's now the Ministry of Justice, the shadow person. He's been an MP in this great borough for 21 years. What do you mean he's playing it safe?
Playing it safe because I don't see David Lammy at any of these kind of estates where we've got certain issues. I'm not going to name the estates, but we know what the estates are. There's not just one. There's a number of estates. There's lots of estates. But but what I do see David Lammy is in safe spaces, right? It's like being in the ivory tower, right? So that's the way I'm saying playing it safe. But if that was Bernie Grant would have been here, going to all these spaces and talking to the man them and persuading the man them there's a different way for us to do it, right? It's a better way for us to hold the authorities to account, right? Not only the police, but our politicians too. Because what they create an environment where politics stinks. And people just don't want to vote, people just don't want to have nothing to do with the politics. But that's what they want. So that they can apply all the madness that's going to affect us and our children, generations of children to come. So that's where we get it wrong.
But to be fair on David Lammy, he's not actually here today to defend himself, but he has been re-elected since 1998, I believe, and he must be doing something right because the people here of Tottenham re-elect him on 3-4 occasions.
Yes, but as I said, politics is not my strength, right? And the thing is that I'm disillusioned with politics. Yeah. I tried my hand at it once, but you know what? It just wasn't for me. Yeah. You understand? Yeah.
Let's talk about a subject which you mentioned earlier on and I pulled away from, is that all of the killings in general to see happen to reduce the number of killings that are taking place within London, within the borough, within London, within the country.
I would like to see us as a society addressing what I believe is a key motivator for the violence, and that's emotional aspect of it. We have to acknowledge it's also historical, particularly the black community from the Caribbean, that we're still projecting onto other people who look like us.
You sound like an academic, and you might have been to Oxford and done your degree. So what do you mean by emotional trauma?
No, my PhD is from the streets.
Elaborate. Trauma.
I mean that what it is that we're carrying certain hurt that's in our head, and what happens is part of it is that from out of slavery.
Do you believe that? I'm being devil's advocate.
I am a strong believer that we don't wake up in the morning to say that we. But the way that we have conducted ourselves is the way that slavery, the Willie Lynch syndrome has predicted that we would do. That is that we will build strong-bodied men with weak minds. And what we see here is a degree of absent fathers from the home. We see young people filling that void, saying that they have to step up and be the man in the house, but no one is giving them a reference as to what. So as a consequence, they're doing things that is actually having a detrimental effect on the. They're trying to say that I have to go up there and make the money to safeguard the mum, the female in the home, but it's not actually working. It's actually adding to our troubles, our situation. But I honestly believe that, along with the social media, that's putting out that now you see a man run up on man and stabbing man, and it's out there on the social media that providing greater insecurity. That man them said, I don't feel safe in the street, so I've got to walk with my weapon. But not only are they walking their weapon, they are walking with also their rage, right? And so therefore, and their paranoia. And so therefore, they just don't look at the other nations to deal with, but they look at their own. So people like who fits in that bill are people aged between 13 and probably 25.
I fully concur with everything you're saying, unusually. Let's talk about solutions now. What is the solution to try and start redressing some of the issues? And what is the point there? So give me some solutions.
So one of the most prominent solution is to have who, first of all, have to address their own emotional issues to become mental, but work with the family. I call it, we had a program called Aunties and Uncles. It's an extension of the family unit. And what it was is that we step in to support the young men, to have a wraparound service around there, so that we can not only talk to the young men, but we talk to the siblings and to the parents to say, look, we all got to work in this way to actually change the mindset of that young man and the younger children that will actually step up and maybe start going down that wrong road at an earlier stage. What we also need are resources. The resources is lacking. And what we also find is that the official find people like myself and people like Stafford Scott and people like Hesketh and Clashford. You know, they look at us as being kind of, maybe, I don't know, radicals or something else, but they're not prepared to bring the resources to try to enrich our community. Because the young people, we have the kudos, we have the respect from our community that other people, the police and other officials don't have or can't have. But yet, what happens is we don't have the resources to help us to go out there and to make that sustained difference that we know we can. People say that the problem or the solutions are complicated. It's not. Not for people like myself who's been on the know how things can really run or should be running.
We're coming to the end of this live stream, and I'm so pleased that we've had this opportunity to talk. And anyone who knows me will know I don't do clips, I like detail. I can sit here and chat with you for hours. I've got no problem with that. Yeah. Can I ask a silly question? How old are you?
I'm 62. I'm 62.
You're what?
62.
You should be getting ready to retire. Put your just like some people have told me they'll be doing, like Lee Jasper, he told me the other week. he plans to be retiring and go back home. But the question I'm asking you, you've mentioned about the young people. I've noticed, as you know, I covered protests throughout the length and breadth of London. I'm well known doing all of this stuff. One thing I'm seeing now is a lot of young people coming through the ranks, and you know, they're leading the protests. Are you seeing young people coming through the ranks here in Tottenham who can take up the Stafford and all of those great people you've mentioned?
On the Black Lives Matter demonstration that I've seen you on a number of occasions over the summer, I saw so many young black people coming, so many youngsters coming out and stepping up to the onto the many more. We see, and not only that, people like me and Stafford, we've got a rich history. And it'd be so sad that if we were to go to our grave without passing on the baton to not to one, but to a group of people out there. And we need to have some sort of system where we can have that dialogue and then, you know, help nurture the future leaders that will take it somewhere else. Sadly to say that I have come to the recognition that having engagement with the police is not working out. I've sadly stepped back as being a chair for Stop and Search Monitoring Group. My frustration, because I've been through 5 or 6 borough command cycle, and what we find that each new borough commander then brings their team, and each team takes it back to the basic. So start again, and all it is that we become a tick box exercise. So we go and visit them at a time that they're making and choosing. We're the only people in the space that's not being paid, but yet they are gaining from our expertise. And when they get it for nothing, they expect us to be there all the time. And sad to say, I think the most strongest thing that we can do is to meet them here outside Tottenham Police Station, even though they sold it to private developers because they've had enough. But you know what? We still will be coming here for years to come. I'm not ready to sit down and hang up my thing and say that I'm going to swan off to somewhere.
Hold on, the rewind selector. Bing! Who has sold what off to developers?
The council have sold off the building, the police station behind us, right? Because of the historical events that's happened here. I think they've had enough. They're going to be building luxury flats. It's earmarked for luxury flats to be built.
Are you going to buy one?
Well, I can't afford to buy one. If I could, I would prefer to go back to Africa and to buy a space closer to the beach, and that's my intention.
We're now coming to a close, and what I would like to say is I thank you very much for giving StreetMic this detailed interview. And one thing I do like to ask people is this same question: have I given you the opportunity to say what you need to say?
Listen, StreetMic, no one does it the way you do it. You have a unique way of putting things across and giving people like me the space to express myself, no matter what that looks like. And I have to honour you for the work that you've done. You're not a younger, but the thing is, you move.
I ain't far off from you.
But you move like a young man. You're done though. You hear what I'm saying?
I like that, but what I try to do is not to make this about me. It's about the person in front of the camera. In closing, is there anything else you would like to add? Anything that we haven't discussed? You can mention about Sasha Johnson or whatever. I'm just chucking that in to remind you. Is there anything else you need to say?
Yes, about the dearest and nearest Sasha Johnson, who's there fighting for her life, still fighting for her life. You know, in a senseless attack on her. I'm one of her mentors. She was shaping up to be one of our strongest black leaders, and to find that she stepped up to try to stop the young man then from going to go and to do something to another young man, and then she's got the bullet instead. I find that very saddened, and I think that should be something that we put to the young people. All the more reason why people like me were stepping up to get you to put your guns down, to put your knife down, and to start to deal with your emotional trauma in a much more constructive way. Sasha, I wish you a speedy recovery, a full and speedy recovery. We need you. We're missing you. You're the missing link. We're supposed to have our million people movement march for the second year, but you know, without you, it ain't gonna happen. So baby, please.
Let's pick up on what you've just said, specifically to do with the Million People March. Last year was the first Million People March, and that was led by Spencer. And and many others, I beg your pardon.
No, listen, and many others. No, it wasn't. Let's get it twisted. It was never led by Spencer. It was led by myself and Sasha and Two Badder. Yeah. We were the three key people here.
I apologise for that error for the second time, but it's important we get the true facts out there. I made an error. You've corrected me, and I thank you for that. But the point being, last year, Two Badder, yourself and Sasha arranged an important event. Sasha is currently in King's College Hospital in Denmark Hill. She cannot be on the streets leading the protest. Can I ask you specifically why you have decided not to do the protest this year? I know it said that because Sasha isn't there.
As I said, from the attack took place on Sasha, I've kind of lost some of my mojo. I've kind of lost my energy level to go back into those into the trenches and talk to the man them, because you know, I felt at the end of the day, how could a man them do this to one of our own and then expect people like me to say, you know what, we still have to go out there and redouble our effort? It's hard. I don't know where I'm going to be next year, but I felt at the end of the day, this year my heart was not there to really, because don't forget, I had to go and fight the police. Who threatened to arrest me and Sasha if we came out, and we had to take them threatened to take them to the High Court, right? I know the battles that we have to do to get anything done here, and to find that man them who don't even come out and support us, but is ready to go and take another man's life, and in this case try to take the sister's life. Shame on you. Shame on all of you. And if you have any information, intelligence about who these people are, you need to give it up. We need these men to hold themselves to account, because you know what? You are going to be a cancer to each and one of you who was involved in that madness. May I tell you.
Thank you very much, Ken, for giving me such a long and detailed interview. It was a pleasure. As I said, I rung you this morning. I was available, you was available. We live relatively close to each other. And I said, come, let's meet me. And we've had the chance to speak about lots of things. I thank you for giving us more information about what happened on the 4th of August 2011 with Mark Duggan. I thank you for explaining your role within the Stop and Search Monitoring Group. I thank you for telling us what happened out here. And what was important for me is to get feedback from someone who was here on the day. And I know by your body language and how you was talking that, you know, sometimes I write things down and it's contemporaneous. That means I do it there and then, and it records all of my feelings. And when I read it back, it's like you're going back to that day 10, 20, 30 years later. And I saw that with you just now, when you were talking, and I can see you were angry in regards to how it panned out. But one thing, thank you so much. And I know you said to me a couple of days ago it was the anniversary of Mark Duggan's death. And I know something was done on that day. We don't need to go into that. But unfortunately, I couldn't attend. But the great thing, I had the opportunity to do this today. And I thank you very much, sir.
Okay, big up StreetMic, follow, subscribe, and pay him some money, please.
So for all of you who are watching, thank you very much. My name is Wendell Daniel, and this is StreetMic, and today we are coming to you live and direct from the streets of London, outside of Tottenham Police Station, with Ken Hinds, who is a well-known gentleman down here. He's from the streets in Tottenham. When I come to England in 1973, the first place I lived was in Tottenham, in Tilson Road, which is literally just down the road. But The next time I'm due to live stream is on Sunday from Speaker's Corner with the Nation of Islam and brother Leo Mohammed. So I will be live streaming on Sunday about 1 o'clock from Speaker's Corner with the Nation of Islam with brother Leo Mohammed, and he has a lot to say about the family. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.